Good evening. Oh, it works. Hi, everyone can hear me. We want to make sure the mics are still working. Shane in the back, thumbs up, we're good. In the front, you can hear me as well. Just don't give me the, normal sign people do when they see me. Good evening and welcome to the Yountville 2022 General Election Forum, produced in partnership with the Yountville Chamber of Commerce and the Town of Yountville. I'm Richard Hall, the former Vice Mayor of Yountville and a Napa County resident. I tell people I live in South Yountville, it's really North Napa. I'll be your host and moderator this evening. If everyone on the stage and in the audience could please turn your cell phones to mute or silence so we don't forget to tell you later. Well, wow, what a last couple of years this has been. We thank you for joining us in person. I remember doing this 2 years ago on Zoom. I'm resonating, I know, it's my magnetic personality. I should do this for real. This event is being recorded and will be posted on the Yountville Chamber of Commerce YouTube channel and will air on channel 28 on Friday, October 7th at 1 p.m. The forum will air again on channel 28 every Friday in October at 1 p.m. and every Monday in October at 5 p.m. Thank you to Partners to Media for filming the forum. They're in the back. And so please do make sure you turn around and get yourself on the video so you can have your 15 minutes like I am. The goal this evening is to give both the candidates of the Yountville Mayor and Town Council the opportunity to share their views on issues pertinent to Yountville. The Yountville Chamber of Commerce does not endorse candidates. The Chamber's goal is simply to educate Yountville voters about each of the candidates. Tonight, we're proud to share that every candidate this election is here with us tonight. We didn't know. Sometimes, people don't show up. We have 4 candidates running for mayor of Yountville. They're here on the right-hand side of the stage. And 3 candidates running for 2 open seats for the town council. We'll hear from each of them in just a moment. But first, I would like to tell you about the format for this evening's forum. This forum will consist of questions and answer session with candidates running for mayor of Yountville and candidates running for town council. So on the council, every vote is equal. There's 5 votes. We're going to ask and answer all the questions by each of the candidates for each question. They will have all candidates will be asked the same question. They were sent 6 questions in advance in which we'll give them 2 minutes to answer each of those. So they're a little more in-depth and thoughtful, and they've had time to prepare their remarks for that. Additionally, we have several questions we'll be asking this evening that the candidates were not given in advance. We call this section of the forum the rapid fire answer section. And each candidate will have 1 minute to answer a question in that time period. We plan to get to every question this evening, but understand that might not be possible. There will not be time for the audience to ask questions of the candidates. We suggest that at the end of the evening, if you have open questions, these lovely people will certainly be around for you to ask those questions directly to them. We will be rotating the questions and answers for each of the questions so that every candidate will get an opportunity to answer first, so that everyone else will get an opportunity to not answer first at that point in time. If we put them all on Mr. Clark here, it wouldn't be very fair for him to go first every time. And it might be really fair for everyone at the end that you get to use their answers. My primary role this evening is to serve as the time clock. And I'm a soccer player. I thought I'd have a red card and a yellow card. But what I have is with 30 seconds left, I'll be notifying the candidates with my yellow card. And when we're done, at the end of time, I'll notify them with my pink, red card, and we'll allow them to finish their statement or their sentence at that time. I ask the audience to please hold your applause until I encourage you to applaud, and then do it very loudly. Out of the respect for our candidates, also for the limited time we have this evening, and also for the videotape so that we can make sure we get to hear everyone and we don't have a lot of the disruption in between. Before we jump in, I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about the Yountville Chamber of Commerce. The Yountville Chamber is a 501c6 nonprofit organization governed by a board of directors, a volunteer board of directors, and run by a professional staff. Our mission is enriching the vibrancy of our community. We serve over 400 businesses and resident members located in Yountville, Napa Valley, and beyond. The Yountville Chamber lives at the intersection of helping businesses succeed and our community thrive. You can learn more about the Yountville Chamber at our website, yountvillechamber.com. Let's get to it. Before we allow these fine candidates to introduce themselves, let's give them a big round of applause for being here. Thank you. And with that, we'll begin with the introductory statements from each candidate. Candidates, as a reminder, you'll have 2 minutes each to make your introductory statement. I will be timing you. When we have 30 seconds remaining, I'll hold up the yellow card. And when I have no time left, I'll hold up the red card. Please be respectful of the other candidates and stick to the time restrictions. We'll begin with the candidates for mayor, starting in alphabetical order. Mr. Kenneth Clark, please begin your introductory statement.
Okay. My roots are in San Francisco, where I was in the San Francisco Red Garter Band. I still play with them from here now and then, but I'm a veteran over at the Veterans Home here, and I need something to do. It's very quiet over there. Can you hear me now? I feel like I just fell in the well. No? Okay. You can hear this? Okay. So anyway, I started a group of seniors over at the Veterans Home, and it's kind of a musical review now. It's called the Dingalings. We play in hospitals, and we play in nursing homes, and we play in the Capitol every Christmas. We'll be there December 9th this year. We'll be doing a show at 1 o'clock if you're in town. You're all invited to see our show. And this will be our 9th year at the Capitol. It's the Christmas Under the Dome, it's called. And so anyway, we go there every year, and we're going back after a 2-year layover. And I want to be mayor of this town because, well, you'll find out why. I guess you're going to ask why we want to be mayor. I figured I'll wait. You're going to ask the questions? Okay. I'm through.
All right, thank you.
That's me.
All right,
Marjorie?
thank you, Ken. Next up, Councilmember Marjorie Moeller.
Thank you, Yountville Chamber of Commerce, for hosting this event. Yountville has been home for 23 years, and I own CNC Group, a scientific consulting company. I have a BA in microbiology from the University of Kansas, and I did graduate work in virology at the University of Kansas Medical School. I have served on the Yountville Town Council since 2008. My service on countywide and state boards include Upper Valley Waste Management for 13 years and chair for the past 6, Napa County Local Area Formation Commission that approves annexations and municipal services outside of city limits for 6 years and 2 terms as chair. The state board, Cal LAFCO, for 5 years, and I will be chair in 2023. Cal City's Environmental Quality Committee for 13 years, the Napa Valley Transportation Authority for 4 years, and Watershed Information Conservation Council for 4 years. I enjoy doing good things for our community. I partnered with West America Bank and Upper Valley Disposal and started the very popular Shred It Day. Residents were not satisfied with the limited hours at our Yountville Library when we first moved into the community center, so I started a volunteer program to initially increase the hours, and then I worked with the County of Napa to increase our hours from 13.5 per week to 40 hours per week. Being a scientist, I helped to start the Napa County Science Fair to inspire young people to become our next generation of scientists and engineers. My priorities as mayor will be balancing the budget and maintaining financial reserves, respecting viewpoints of all residents and consulting with residents on important government decisions, balancing the interest of residents and businesses so that we can sustain our vibrant economy, and communicating veteran home residents' issues to our county, state, and federal officials. Thank you.
Thank you, Margie. Next is Robert Moore.
My name is Robert Moore, and I'm the only candidate that offers a plan to double our town revenue without increasing our town debt. I offer a plan to reopen the Lincoln Theater as a convention center, providing the following benefits to the town. Each convention participant that will be paying our town by their companies between $5,000 and $10,000, depending on the number of days they're going to be holding their conference in our town. And each participant will be staying in our hotels. Most convention participants will be flying in. Without an automobile, our town traffic congestion will not increase, and parking will be unaffected. The conventioneer will be meetings throughout the day, not roaming our town as some may thought would happen. After dinner in the hotel or the local eateries, the conventioneer will be shuttled to the convention center for evening entertainment, and they'll be given front row seats as honored guests of our town. The evening entertainment will also be available to Yountville residents, veterans living at the home, and wine tasting tourists that are spending the evening with us. Bottom line, most Yountvilleans will not even know they're here. They are the perfect guest.
Thank you, Robert. And we'll start now with the next microphone, Pamela Reeves.
Thank you for coming, and I think there are about 5 things I think you should know about me as a candidate for mayor. Number 1 is I have prior experience in town government. I was on the Zoning and Design Review Board for 5 years, and for 3 of those years I was chairperson. I was on the town council as a member for 4 years, and I worked on the 1992 general plan. I left to start a family and to create an opening for someone else to step up and take their turn. Number 2, I'm currently active in Yountville as a citizen advocate. I attend or view and participate in council meetings, workshops, and board and committee meetings. I supported and worked with community initiatives to ban the gas leaf blowers and to oppose Measure T, the cannabis lounge. I have deep roots and a very deep love of Yountville. We chose to live here 40 years ago, and I have owned and operated 2 businesses on Washington Street for 20 years. Currently, I have a home occupation. I raised my family here. And number 4, I do possess organizational skills and an ability to work with group dynamics. I've helped create a nonprofit educational foundation with 5 other parents and fundraised for 15 years for educational endeavors. This enabled me to co-found a small preschool in Napa that served many Yountville families over the 20 years it was open. And with a core group of those parents, I wrote and was granted a public charter for a K-8 school known as Stonebridge in Napa. Many Yountville families were served by this school, and it is still in operation 20 years later. And number 5, oh, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Now I have a job.
You have to come over here.
I know.
I know, it's hard to see.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Test,
Thank you,
test,
Pam.
test.
We appreciate that.
Test,
Let's turn
test.
to the Yountville Town Council candidates. First, we'll start with
Test,
Robin
test.
McKee.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you to the Chamber of Commerce. I am a Napa Valley native. I lived in Yountville originally in the 80s, and my husband John and I purchased a home here in 2019. Growing up here equipped me with an early background in wine and hospitality, and I later went to work in destination marketing for Sonoma County Tourism Bureau. We were the first bureau in the region to implement a tourism occupancy tax. We shared that strategy with Clay Gregory of Visit Napa Valley, and you're welcome. My role for the Bureau was to work with businesses that create and foster partnerships. When it comes to success in tourism, the more businesses partner with each other, the better reinforced their chances are for sustainable success. This philosophy is one of the assets I bring with me to the council. Yountville has limited space for new businesses, so encouraging partnerships, I believe we can welcome more community-based businesses and growth. I've held other key roles too, all required a high degree of accountability and integrity and resourcefulness. Personally, I'm described as open and approachable. These attributes and all of my business experience will support me in a decision-making leadership role. I volunteered for Yountville Arts Commission because I wanted to contribute to Yountville's economic success. Yountville needs to offer more than only food and wine and lodging. And this isn't only true for our visitors' experience, it's true for our communities as well. I will use my voice to amplify the voices of the town residents because I'm just as dedicated to keeping Yountville a great place to live as I am to keeping it a great place to visit. The council needs to be listeners first, to balance between businesses that make our town famous and residents who make it special. And that, of course, includes the veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Next up is Scott Owens.
Thank you. My name is Scott Owens. I am a candidate for member of town council. My spouse and I came to Yountville in 2013 on Veterans Day to look at an old house. My first site was Veterans Memorial Park with its towering trees and public art. We felt welcome here. Our presentation to the Yountville Zoning and Design Review Board was my first experience with our town government. It would not be my last. After frequent visits to the library, I saw a posting for Yountville Library Commissioner. I applied for the role, was appointed by the town council, and served for 7 years. I experienced both the collaboration and tension that come with serving on a local commission. It gave me the opportunity to meet fellow residents who keep me engaged and true to my mission. I learned that I love the process of working with my community to solve problems. My passion for strengthening communities extends to my work at 2 nonprofit community foundations for over 18 years. I have helped to steward resources that benefit communities. My job takes me out of town, and my commute on the Vine 29 sparked my interest in transportation issues. In 2018, I was appointed by the town council to represent Yountville on the Napa Valley Transportation Authority to support transit solutions that improve quality of life for neighbors and workforce. I am now in my 2nd term. I'm also in my 2nd term as board member in the Town of Yountville Community Foundation. This service has strengthened my experience as a decision maker and representative in the county-wide public process and reinforced the connection to my neighbors at the Veterans Home who access these services. I am curious about my surroundings, take the time to study and learn every day. That drive helped me earn a degree at the University of San Francisco and graduate from Leadership Napa Valley, where I received the John Wagonconnect Leadership Award from my classmates. I believe local government is responsible for advocating and leading on issues for all, not just the most vocal or longest term residents.
Thank you, Scott. And finally, to Hillary Tripp.
Thank you. Well, time is short, so I'm going to get right to the point of why I'm running and why I'd be honored to have your vote. In 2019, the Envision Yountville General Plan included a goal for enhancing the quality of life and, quote, prioritizing the needs and desires of residents in governmental decision-making. And that is, prioritizing residents in council decision-making is exactly why I'm running. So why do I think I could represent you effectively? I say this based on my legal and business management experience and what I've learned working on for 2 years on the Yountville Affordable Housing Committee and the Yountville Zoning Board. I love this town, and probably nothing says this more clearly than I spend every other Sunday at the Visitor Center sharing my enthusiasm for Yountville and all that it offers. When I applied in January for a council position vacancy, I said that there were 3 stakeholders in Yountville. There are the residents, the business community, and the town staff. Among these stakeholders, I really believe residents should be seen as the first among equals. Since I said that, and I continue to say that, so many people come up to me and say, you know, I really agree with that approach. I'm a lawyer by training. I attended the University of California. I spent the first part of my career as a business and commercial lawyer. I was assistant general counsel at C&H Sugar in Crockett, and there I had a lot of experience with regulatory agencies, especially the state of California. The 1 million square foot refinery is actually located on the Straits, so we had, and land that is leased by the company from the state, so we obviously had a lot of important issues. The second part of my career, which I emphasize because I really moved into the business and finance area, I worked managing large-scale risk management programs for 2 large organizations, the University of California, covering all the campuses and medical centers, and then I was recruited and moved on to Dignity Health, a system of 42 hospitals. My experience in budgeting and bottom line accountability at the University of California, which is a public agency, I think will really help me understanding the important budgeting and financial issues of the town of Yountville. I respectfully ask for your vote, and I will work hard to represent you as in an effective and meaningful way. Thank you.
Thank you, Hillary, and to each of you for those introductory statements. Go ahead, give us an applause. So we're going to play past the microphone tonight. We're going to move on to our candidate Q&A. So the Yountville Chamber received dozens of questions submitted from the public. These questions were consolidated and merged into the final list you'll hear today. Candidates were sent 6 questions in advance. We hope to get to all 6 tonight. Although based on my timekeeping, some of you are going to, test me. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question posed. After we move through these questions, we'll move on to our rapid fire answer questions. Candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. I'll do my best to try to keep each of you at 2 minutes. Let's begin. The first question will start with Mr. Clark. It'll be a town budget question. And the question's going to be listed here on the TV screen next to you. The candidates have got these prepared in advance, but this will help you recall. Are there any areas in the town's budget that you would like to propose increased spending or decreased spending, and why? The town has an unassigned fund balance from the previous year. How do you prioritize the budget choices for continued long-term sustainability in OPEB, infrastructure, reserves, parks and rec, and sound fiscal management? How will you ensure the town's priorities are planned? We'll start with Mr. Ken Clark.
What was the question again?
I'll read it out loud. Can you hear me?
I would, it was decrease what and increase what now?
Yes.
I don't hear that well. You know, I'm an old guy now, an old man.
It was the budget question with regards to how you would prioritize your spending in the budget.
Oh, that's easy. I wouldn't spend any money. I'm a miser. Marjorie?
Okay. Thank you.
I spend too much money around here.
Okay. Thank you. Marjorie?
Our current town budget for fiscal year 22-23 was completed following numerous collaborative meetings with the town council and department heads. The final budget was unanimously approved. Our budget, in conjunction with our strategic plan, ensure that town priorities are planned. My top priority in every budget is paying for public safety services, law enforcement, and fire protection. Paying a living wage and benefits to town staff is also critical to our operations. There is a high demand for municipal employees, and Yountville must compete for talent. Yountville is very fortunate to be able to attract staff that are dedicated, work as a team, and are committed to our community. The town is responsible for many things that are critically important to residents' everyday lives. Public Works keeps Yountville running smoothly to make sure we have terrific roads, dependable sewers and water pipes, and beautiful parks. We need high-quality infrastructure that people can depend on. The Parks and Recreation Department serves as the heart of our community. These services are often cited as one of the most important factors in how livable communities are. Adding to our reserve funds is also a priority. As part of our normal budget process, the town created special reserve funds that are used only for one-time, non-reoccurring expenses. An example is the Revenue Stabilization Fund that was established to make up for lost taxes or TOT revenue, for example, during a natural disaster. At the end of the budget year, any unspent money is referred to as an unassigned fund balance. I propose we use some of these monies to add to 2 existing reserve funds, Affordable Housing and Workforce Housing Measure S Fund, and the Vehicle Fleet Replacement Fund to start replacing our gasoline service vehicles with electric vehicles. Thank you.
The town of Yountville, excluding the Veterans Home, only covers 1 square mile. Our town staff is made up of 33 employees, and this is the most public employees per square mile found anywhere in California. Our town does not have our own fire department or police force, which is fine. They are contracted out and are not included in the 33 employees that we have. The town staff current salary averages $96,000 a year, plus retirement benefits, plus health insurance. This has led to the town's unfunded pension liability problem that nobody is addressing, and that will only grow if nothing is done, eventually leading to major cuts in other services to cover the pension shortfall. The employee retirement package projected out over a lifetime could easily cost the town over $1.3 million based on this $96,000 salary. This does not include COLA or the cost of health care. We need to address this unfunded pension liability issue and consider doing what 10 other cities in California has done, and that's to address their issue of their potential crisis. As mayor of Yountville, I will ask the town council to place a freeze on new hires until we have rectified our public pension liability issue.
Thank you. And we'll move on to Pam Reeves.
First, I'd like to express my gratitude to the staff for a user-friendly budget document. In going through it, you are allowed to achieve a real clear understanding of what goes on fiscally in this town. To achieve sound management, we must spend more time with this budget. A few intensive sessions with a lot of information all at once does not facilitate a really good, detailed review. This hasty, perfunctory overview is not doing the town justice in trying to manage the budget. I think it would be better if the council addressed a budget during all of its council meetings, just small pieces at a time. The council task is to review and create policy. Budget review is an opportunity to observe the consequences of what our policies get us. And it facilitates and encourages planning for the future. Capital improvement projects, which come in a 5-year cycle, could be reviewed often to make sure they're still relevant for the town. Some may have noticed that on the last page of the budget document, there's a 10-year forecast that indicates expenditures may outpace revenues. Being forewarned allows us to research, evaluate, and take steps to make sure this doesn't occur. I favor catching up with contributions to funds that were put on hold during the pandemic, and I would like to discuss the idea of making an investment in the water sewer infrastructure as a town responsibility rather than a resident cost to aid in resident budgeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Pam. All right, we're on to Robin.
Thank you. So to answer the last question first, how to make sure town priorities are planned, council members need to make time to listen to our residents and their priorities year-round. I believe the recent Parks and Rec Master Plan Forum was an excellent example of how our community can work together to give input, hear the results of the input, and then further define priorities together. Working together as a community leads to sound, transparent results. It's our fiscal responsibility to pay back borrowed funds from the drought reserve that we utilized a few years back for repairs at Washington Park. We also need them to get back on track for post-employment benefits that were halted during COVID. Let's get those line items covered and then make sure we continue to have robust surplus for things we can't plan for. I'm dedicated to being a good steward to Yountville's financial reserves. We need to always have funds set aside for the next emergency or challenge, whether a natural disaster here or in the Bay Area where much of our business comes from. Or we also need to cover costs for fire and police, and of course for infrastructure, maybe even water in a pinch. I'd be supportive of investments to help our town continue to conserve water. The Eye on Your Water app is working for those who are signed up for it. Let's expand it where possible and update it with real-time data. These are just a few ideas to ensure we use financial and natural resources wisely.
Thank you. Scott Owens?
The town's budget for fiscal year 2023 is thorough and balanced and provides for the livelihood of those who live and work here. As the town just closed its first quarter of the fiscal year, I may propose a reduction or halt of the $75,000 allocation for an impact fee study, especially as the Planning and Building Department is in a leadership transition. And because the cost is high relative to other contracted consultants, for example, the town audit, at $32,000. I would propose a modest increase to the low-income subsidy funds for both the water utility and the wastewater utility operating funds, currently at $1,500 each, and ask that the town of Yountville explore the option of housing that fund in the Yountville Community Foundation so that other entities may receive or contribute to that source. I would also increase the budget for electric vehicle charging stations to a slightly larger amount to include more fast charging stations. I would prioritize the budget choices for long-term sustainability as follows. Sound fiscal management, as it is a starting point to bring about the following. Infrastructure, especially for roads, emergency preparedness, and water delivery systems. And parks and recreation. It's a comprehensive, inclusive program benefiting residents, visitors, and businesses. Infrastructure needs to be in place to enjoy these benefits and attract visitors. There's an opportunity for revenue generation through registration fees and marketing. OPEB, this is a promise kept to our Town of Yountville workforce. And lastly, reserves. Set aside reserves to buffer economic downturn and funds targeted that have not been met or exceeded. The annual budget is adopted via various workshops with staff input to establish priorities for the upcoming year. I would participate in and ensure that the town priorities are planned during the budget planning phase. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And we'll finish with Hillary.
Thank you. As Robin did, speak first to the question of planned reserves, and my sense is the town has done a very good job setting up reserves for contingencies and regularly funding these reserves. I spent 18 years in risk management, and I'm not a head in the sand kind of person. You really do need to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. I spent a lot of time working with actuaries, setting up reserves, and making sure that we were putting current dollars away for future expenses, claims, damage to property, and the like. So this is a process that I'm very familiar with, and I think I would be able to strongly support the town in continuing to do this. In terms of budget priorities, I would like to see more funding for our Parks and Rec department. It is really the heart of Yountville, and it's a quality of life issue, and as I've said, I really want to prioritize the quality of life for Yountville residents. The budget in 2018 allocated 21% of general fund revenue for the Parks and Rec. Now, and it subsequently went down and down to 16%, and now this year we're at 17%. That's a big drop when you consider the general fund budget is over is around 10.5 million. As a member of the council, I would definitely support continued and increased funding for our facilities and the Parks and Rec Department, including a dog park and possibly reopening a pool. I would support those ideas, which have been very popular with, I think, many residents. We need to be not only a premier place to visit, which is what is one of our critical success factors, but a premier place to live. Along those lines, in terms of priorities, I would take a very close look at adding additional personnel. I would not have supported the addition recently of a compliance officer for a town of 3,000 people, many of whom live in the vet's home and 1,100 housing units. To add an additional person at $9,000 a month as a starting salary, in addition to a 20 to 50% benefit load, I think is too much for Yountville. Thank you.
Thank you, Hillary. So, thank you. So we're doing a little bit of movement around the building here while we fix microphones and things. Thank you for your understanding. We're going to move on to the economy. Given that tourism and tourism-based activity generates 70% of the town's budget, what should the town do to support the community's continued success? This question will start with Marjorie Moeller. So you're last this time. Good luck.
All right, thank you. Yountville's economy is very unique. About 75% of the cities in California receive most of their operating revenue from property taxes. In California, only about 11% of those property taxes collected go to a city or a town's general fund. Yountville's portion of our property taxes, approximately $2 million, is barely enough to pay for our sheriff and fire services. TOT and sales tax from Yountville's profitable businesses currently contribute about $9 million to Yountville's budget. Tourism adds billions of dollars to our state economy, and tourism also allows Yountville to thrive. Napa, Calistoga, and Healdsburg and other local cities are embracing Yountville's approach to tourism-based businesses. The Town Council has the difficult task of balancing the interest of our residents with ensuring Yountville's businesses are successful. I think the council has worked diligently to preserve the small town charm of Yountville by limiting signage, business hours, and business locations. I sponsored a retail diversity ordinance that requires wine tasting rooms to dedicate 25% of their floor space to non-wine retail. When I am considering a use permit for new businesses, I'm always focused on minimizing or eliminating adverse effects and to keep employees and customers from parking in our neighborhoods. I supported zoning changes to limit new businesses to the Washington Street corridor. During the pandemic, the Town Council saw an opportunity to help businesses by allowing outdoor seating and establishing special parking zones for contact-free pickup. I'm open to listening to new ideas on how we can support our business community's continued success while also providing benefits to our residents. Thank you.
An important issue that needs to be addressed are the 4 large hotels running at 52% occupancy and our smaller hotels running at 70%. Our town budget relies on the hotel tax, and without it, our little town will be like most small little towns, just scraping by. A solution to filling our hotels is to open the Lincoln Theater as a convention/conference center. This will bring visitors from around the country to Yountville to fill our hotels. The wine tasting visitors are currently our only hope in filling our rooms, and what we need is a second alternative, and the convention business is that second choice. I believe my purpose, our proposal, is strong, and I plan on convincing every assemblyman and senator in the state of California on both veteran committees to join me in presenting my case to Calvet. I'll be asking for a 5-year lease given to the foundation to operate the theater as a convention center. And if our convention business is successful, I'll be asking the state to sell the theater to the town of Yountville if the town wants to buy it. The Yountville Chamber of Commerce receives over $300,000 a year from our budget to bring new tourists to our town. As mayor, I will ask the chamber to start a marketing campaign to ask businesses and organizations from around the country to bring their conventions and conferences here to Yountville. The town of Yountville is unique in 3 ways: financial strength, a premier location, and an already available beautiful theater just waiting to be reopened. The convention business is a billion-dollar business, and once the convention center is opened here for business, the town of Yountville will be able to pick and choose who will hold their conventions in our town. Why fight big city crime, drug abuse, and homelessness when the conventioneer can spend an average of 4 days here in paradise?
Thank you. Ms. Reeves.
This town is well supported by tourist dollars. The town, though, does share back a portion of those dollars directly with business through the Chamber of Commerce. The county has carved out 2% of gross TOT revenue for its tourist improvement district to market and promote the whole Napa Valley. 0.5% of that money comes directly back to the town to use for Yountville promotion. The town invests additional funds in the chamber to support its basic and PR activities. The chamber is a dynamic force in this community and does a great job in its mission for business and residents. Many residents support the chamber as volunteers. Beyond this, the council should be more proactive in assisting the entire business community as a whole with planning and development for the future. I think we would all like to see more variety and innovation in our business district. The idea of a Community Economic Development Commission was rejected by the majority of the council last year, but I think this could be an instrumental idea in bringing residents and business together at a quasi-governmental level to plan and court new opportunities and to respond to ever-quickening trends and challenges. We are interconnected and all contribute to the success of our community. Residents have provided a stellar environment for business to operate. Businesses generate funding to maintain the beauty and functionality of the town. No one has the upper hand in this equation, but both are required to make it work. The council needs to bring those components together because separating them is counterproductive. We must intersect in order to create understanding, observe needs, and create cooperation. This commission idea could create the space and the framework to come together with a mutual goal of creating a community that sustains us all.
Thank you. All right, on to the council candidates. Robin.
Thank you. So the chamber, the residents, the businesses in the town are on the same page in recognizing the benefit of business and resident synergy. And as a council member, I would foster and facilitate even more of that. I lived here in the 1980s when the town started to draw visitors from the Bay Area. There was the Chutney Kitchen, Piatti, where Claude Ruas created a hip scene just by being there. And the Bay Area came to take part in that. Herb Cain had a big hand in that, but even the diner had lines around the block waiting just to get a table. And then there was Vintage 1870, the jewel in our crown. It was a retail destination that drew people from all over to come to Yountville. The reliance upon tourism was intentional back then, just as it should be today. But given TOT revenues are down, not just here, but throughout the county, I'd say tourism as we know it is no longer enough. I will continue to honor the existing model, but as a council member, I will challenge businesses to advance it by partnering turnkey packages that are multi-day experiences to drive overnight stays and to fill our restaurants during need periods. I'm talking about the middle of the week and during the winter. We are in competition with Napa, with Carmel, Monterey, and all of Sonoma County for the same business and the same TOT dollars. So we need to think outside of the box to plan programs that will earn Yountville that business. We must expand our retail, services, activities, and even entertainment. And we have a chamber that represents us in the tourism sector and a PR agency, but I also think we could work together and plan sales blitzes into the Bay Area, into Sacramento, to get that business. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Scott.
The town should remain receptive to new businesses and entrepreneurial efforts and support existing businesses by encouraging diverse businesses to avoid overrepresentation or saturation of one particular type of business. Listening. Strengthen the collaborative relationships with existing businesses in town and survey existing businesses to include their input regarding policy changes in commerce-related decisions. Also, develop and promote policies and programs that support and house the workforce, and share that information regarding affordable workforce housing when those units become available. And continue to collaborate with the Chamber of Commerce to market the town as the premier destination, the heart of the Napa Valley, to increase visitor and customer traffic. Continue to develop the web-based portal for all business-related applications to streamline the process of permitting and change of use action. And maintain the infrastructure with Park and Rec and community events that continue to attract visitors and customers. The town can also support continued success by providing the environment and infrastructure that sustain business development, including policies that provide a welcoming environment to business employees, a dedicated staff representative at the town to process permits and related requirements, and work with the Chamber of Commerce, supporting and highlighting local businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. All right, Hillary.
Thank you. Yountville has done an excellent job in terms of its goal of becoming a premier destination. Tourist and occupancy tax revenues have actually been up significantly. They're up this year over budget, and last year they were over budget by several $1 million. And that's actually why we have some unallocated funds. The unique partnership with the Chamber of Commerce has really served Yountville well. They do a great job marketing Yountville. I know this because I talk to between 20 and 50 visitors every Sunday at the Chamber Welcome Center, and there's no shortage of people who want to come to Yountville and will pay $800 a night to stay here, which should probably make us all feel really good. Not only does the Chamber do a good job of marketing, but I really see that they supported the businesses. And I saw this during COVID when I participated and listened to the webinars where the Chamber offered information about all of the various regulatory requirements for the businesses. They offer information on diversity, hiring, all sorts of things, which I think really supports businesses, many of whom are rather small, so they don't really have access to the resources. I think there's no two ways in terms of long-term that we rely on tourism. That is the Napa Valley, wine and tourism. We're not going to attract industry. We're not going to have, there's just really no option other than that. But I do think that Yountville should think some about the diversification of our business base. We have 14 tasting rooms. And there is a retail component, but most of the visitors who come into the visitor center say, where can I shop? And I think the retail diversification and also more resident-serving retail could really benefit both the visitors and the residents. And finally, there's two ways to achieve that. We could use a carrot approach, which would be to offer owners of property some sort of incentives to put something in there other than tasting rooms, or we could use a stick approach, which would be to have a moratorium. And as a council member, I would consider both. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we'll bring the same question down to our last participant, Mr. King Clark.
Same question.
Same question, economy.
What was that question again? No, I got it. I'm just kidding. I worked on Fisherman's Wharf for 18 years with a band playing out there for tourists. And we are losing a lot of money from our tourists here. You guys just don't know how much money you're losing every day here in this town. You gotta work these tourists. You gotta ask them where they're from. Make sure they're happy here. I don't see any happy tourists. I see tourists, but I see them walking around the streets like they're looking for something to do. They have nothing to do. And we have a pool up here at our home up here. We could open that pool up and give them a place to stick their kids so they can come on downtown and maybe buy something for a change, you know, instead of just wine. And we have other shops here. They should all have an equal share of that money. But you got to make the tourists happy first. You got to give them some entertainment downtown, right out here in front. You got a great showcase right out here in front of the community center. You don't use it for, except we did the tree lighting. The Dinglings did the tree lighting this last Christmas. And we had it was a tremendous crowd. We can do that all the time downtown. I know how to bring them in. I also know how to get rid of them. So don't worry. We can have a lot of fun downtown with me. I want to be an ambassador mayor. Somebody who's out there with the tourists like I'm used to. You get out there, you find out where they're from, you sing a few songs on the street with them from where they're from, nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina. They'll all start singing with you. And what do they do after they sing? I ask them, well, this portion of the music's been brought to you today by the such and such winery. Why don't you go over there right now? Because let me tell you what they have on sale at the stores down the street too. And they always go, they pack those stores. And you don't have any ambassador here in town doing that with these tourists. These tourists, if you look at them, they're not even carrying packages. They're not buying anything. You think they are, but they're not. I don't see any packages except for a bottle of wine now and then going down the street, in a package. But they're not buying hats and shoes and pants and jackets. They don't have any shiny jackets. Look they don't have any shiny jackets down here. Anyway, you have a shiny jacket?
I do, but your time's up.
Oh, my time's up. Oh, thanks.
But thank you. Thank you so much. All right, thank you. We're going to move on to our next question that has been pre-prepared, and that's on the topic of housing. So to each of you, and we'll start with Mr. Moore, what specific action do you think the Yountville Town Council should take to encourage development of affordable and employee workforce housing in Yountville?
Most people do not realize that more employees are working at the veterans' home than veterans that are living there. A second fact is that the average employee has to travel more than 45 miles each way to and from work. No one working at the veterans' home can afford to live in Yountville. The average 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,400 square foot home sells for $1.4 million, and unless you're a doctor, you can't afford to buy one. Especially if you're working at $20 an hour cleaning up veterans, and in some cases don't even know that they're there, requires a unique talent. The governor back in 2019 identified the Vets Home as one of the 150 pieces of excess state land that could be optioned off for housing. In addition to the governor's proposal, the Vets Home 2020 Master Plan also identifies the need for housing. Why should the residents in downtown Yountville be excited about low-income housing at the Veterans Home? The answer is simple. These 30-plus low-income units being asked to be built by Housing and Community Development, HCD, should be built on the Veterans Home and not in the million-dollar neighborhoods in Yountville. As mayor of Yountville, I will be asking for a permanent parking space at HCD headquarters in Sacramento until low-income housing is built on the home.
Thank you. Okay, Pam.
Yountville has become such an expensive housing market. Some parts of our residential community have been lost. When I first came here, most people who worked in Yountville also lived in Yountville, and that included business owners as well. This model is probably never coming back, but we have ecological and social reasons why we should support more affordable and workforce housing in town. The old paradigm of requiring affordable units in large development plans can no longer work, though the town has done pretty well with this in the past. Now the town must get more involved in driving the development of workforce and affordable housing. There are 2 parcels identified as likely or potential sites in town for this type of development. the Catholic Church property and potentially the YES property, the school. Both of these would require financial investment and cooperation with affordable housing developers. Both would be places that would integrate these houses into town. I would stand by and be ready to make investments and discuss the sites and benefits. The Veterans Home property has been discussed as a panacea for our affordable housing requirements, but how and when the state moves is uncertain. I commit to working with state officials and our congressional representative to achieve access and a seat at the table when discussions and plans are being hatched. The Veterans Home is inside the town limits, so the council does have a responsibility to represent and protect the interests of all its residents, including the home members. And because we have been allocated 72 affordable units to plan for, we can't just rely on one site. It's best for the community for workforce affordable housing to occur in many places throughout the town so that the whole community is more varied and diverse and our new residents can be committed to our special town.
So how long have you been working with the Veterans Home on housing? What's happening at the school property? As a newbie on the council, I would request updates from the current council members on who have been in contact with these entities. I'd also turn to our staff to be briefed on exactly what's been done so far. I'd like to look into the why we seem to be spinning our wheels. Sure, the state has proven to be downright impossible to work with, but I'd work to be that new voice that is 1,000% committed to working out a win-win. The 500 or so veterans in the independent living section of the home deserve a better quality of life. And if we can work with leaders like Mike Thompson and Bill Dodd and locally Ed Warren to make changes, then we have to stay at it. We need to step up and be the leaders who ask the right questions at the right time, and persistence and tenacity will pay off. The school property is another opportunity that we will have coming up. The state mandate for affordable housing is a way that we can welcome new residents that are families, first responders, teachers, and nurses. We need a vibrant, vital community so we can support our local serving businesses. Thank you.
In short, Yountville needs to attract developers and include community members in the study of housing and related issues. There are two major parts that contribute to the effective implementation of affordable workforce housing: entitlements created by the Fair Housing Act and the mandate of those units. While other cities in California have filed lawsuits to delay these state requirements, Yountville Town Council and the Zoning and Design Review Board proactively identified a general plan to address housing needs. The general plan is a guide to work with nonprofit housing developers and tap the expertise of partner agencies in the region. Housing goals, policies, and programs include multifamily designs with varying densities and a priority to current town residents and employees within the town. Now, it's up to Yountville as a community to embrace the idea of those incentives and for the council and staff to attract interested developers. There's a golden opportunity to partner with and participate in plans to upgrade and improve housing at the Veterans Home of California as appropriate. The town council must manage future growth to maintain community character and ensure orderly and attractive development. Yountville is required to do so through a regional housing needs allocation, and we will do it wisely. The Veterans Home of California is a model of supportive housing, housing that is inclusive of services that benefit the whole person, including nutrition, healthcare, and socialization. The Veterans Home has a number of sites that could support affordable housing for its workforce. This would be an excellent opportunity to house members of that workforce and welcome new residents to enhance the fabric of our community. Thank you.
I'm a big proponent of affordable housing, and this really hits the intersection of my volunteering on the Affordable Housing Committee and also the Zoning Board. I took this question at face value when it asked for specific actions that we could do beyond identifying sites. And so I have some ideas on 2 specific actions. One would be this issue of accessory dwelling units, which are the freestanding units you could build in your backyard. This is something we really need to think about, given that, as we all know, there's a lack of land in Yountville and it's very expensive. Accessory dwelling units really have come before the zoning board and are built in Yountville in really 2 situations. One, people want to get more square footage on their lot, and it's really something that they're going to use, which I completely understand. And then I've heard more residents, especially long-term residents, talking about the fact they have a larger lot, they'd like to put an accessory dwelling unit in so that they could move into it and their family could move in, or they could rent. So that would be a win in either regard. We'd have a unit for somebody who works here possibly, or we'd have more family here living here. I think we might need to consider, though, Yountville has very, very stringent design standards. The planning director said recently it's $750 a square foot is what people are building in Yountville. So for an 800 square foot ADU, you'd be talking over $500,000. So my proposal would be we consider in specific instances and specific neighborhoods reducing the design standards, or even in particular situations involving residents, reducing the design standards. The other thing I would propose is we have $1.7 million in our affordable housing, which I'm on that committee. One of the things ideas I like, this wouldn't create more housing, but it might possibly get town employees into housing, would be a loan program. It's a very direct way to encourage people to buy homes in Yountville. We could offer, recently we gave a 2% interest rate to the Napa Community Housing for a building unit that they bought and are leasing. We could offer that type of rate or loan to people who work in Yountville or work for Yountville. Thank you.
What's that?
Same question.
Same question. What was it again? I really forgot it this
That's
time.
okay. It's what action would you take with regards to housing and affordable housing in the town of Yountville?
Well, as far as affordable housing, how about getting affordable living first? You know, there's nowhere to eat for these people. Why do you need more housing? You know, you need at least one fast food restaurant in this town, like give them with kids somewhere to go eat sensibly for a sensible price. Right now, there's nowhere here in town they can take a family of 4 kids and 5 kids, 5 kids, 3 kids. They're too expensive. You need at least one fast food outfit, like a good one, like The Habit or something like that here in town. Just to, you don't go to a restaurant unless they have something on the menu like for $7.95 when everything else is $17. You have to have something for $7.95. Usually a little steak of some kind, That's what you do. You give them a release. You need a release here for people to not have to go to those restaurants three times a day. Give them a fast food outlet. Open that pool over there. Let them bring the kids over there, and everybody will be a lot happier. They'll spend a lot more money. I know how these people will spend. You just got to make them happy. That's all. You got to make them feel welcome. Right now, my girlfriend and I, she's sitting here with our dog, Susie. She's told me one day when I first came here, she says, "What have you done for a veteran today?" And I've always lived by that. But if I become mayor, it'll be, "What have you done for Yountville today?"
Marjorie.
Thanks, Rich. All right. We've just completed our housing element and sent it off to Sacramento for approval. The housing element is a local plan that includes goals, policies, and programs that direct decision-making concerning housing. Yountville is required to plan for 72 housing units during the next 8 years, 30 of which must be affordable to lower-income households, including low-income, very low, and extremely low. In our housing element, the town council has outlined numerous programs to encourage development of affordable and workforce housing, and to name a few, we established a streamlined process to approve housing projects which include an affordable component. We added an affordable housing overlay zone that permits density increases of up to 150% if all the units are affordable. We established a forgivable loan program to assist home buyers, homeowners with building ADUs that will be reserved for affordable units. And the town can use Measure S funds to provide matching funds for affordable housing. We partner with the Housing Authority of the City of Napa to participate in assistance programs. These programs include, but are not limited to, the Mortgage Credit Certificate Program, down payment assistance to qualified buyers of below market rate housing, Section 8 rental assistance with housing choice vouchers, and the Proximity Housing First-Time Home Buyer Assistance Program. The town will reduce the per unit cost of multifamily development and reduce or eliminate fees for affordable housing units on a project-by-project basis. We will work closely with the Veterans Home of Yountville and the California Department of Veteran Affairs for changes and upgrades to the Veterans Home facility to include affordable and workforce housing. Thank you.
Thank you all. We're going to have to cut a couple questions, but we are going to get to this next one here. We may not get as many rapid fire, but we're moving along well, so everyone take a deep breath. The next topic we're going to discuss with the council candidates is on water. Given the current water rate discussion, it intimates an average increase of approximately $240 per year to approximately $1,200 after 5 years, or at year 5, in increases. How would you address this increase with the residents? And what would you recommend to mitigate this level of increase today and influence the trajectory before the next utility rate study in 5 years from now? The first question, the answer will first go to Pam Reeves.
Without changing our commitment to conserving water and meeting our conservation goals, we need to look at our current water infrastructure costs. I'm afraid I don't agree with the rate increase and the report. We're all aware that the price of water that we purchase is going up and is likely to go up each year. But the infrastructure costs and the pass-through of them should be discussed. The current rate study was received by the council without options or alternatives to large increases passed on to users. The increase is double what the increase was the last time we had a rate hike. In the last rate study, the council was presented with options to help out the ratepayers. Council opted to transfer money from another fund to cover some of the infrastructure costs. This should be considered again, and use of the unassigned fund balance could be made to accomplish this. The same for the sewer infrastructure costs. The town owns the infrastructure and should be responsible for its maintenance. This is a proper expenditure of general fund monies. I would like to look to adding water, sewer, infrastructure costs as a recurring budget item in order to fulfill this responsibility. In the next 2 years, council will be in negotiation with the state on water allocation and guarantees. It's up to the new council to protect the health of our community by assuring the availability of our water. It is also time to look at any other options and cooperative measures we can create to have backup sources. Drought conditions might just become our new normal, and we need to be prepared for that.
So I'm a resident, and I face the cost increases with water rates going up, and I expect many will be asking why we need this increase. I understand that contributing factors are the age of our system, the terms of the water purchase contract with the state, increased regulations, and their costs. Our residents deserve more than a 30,000 view because a rate increase is a direct hit in their wallet. I do commend the town for planning a public information workshop that's taking place on October 24th to review the 2022 utility rate study and propose wastewater increases. I know I'll be there in attendance. We need a council who considers our specific circumstances and impacts. I'm confident the contract has been vetted well, but I would still ask if there are any savings to be had on the front end. Are there ways to reduce operating costs on the back end? Savings should be passed along to residents. I know our prices for water fall between what St. Helena and Calistoga residents will be on the hook for in 2023. So we're all in this together, but we need a council that's not afraid to roll up their sleeves to dig for ways to help. I think the TOT funds can help subsidize the portion of the bill that covers infrastructure and replacement costs. We did that 5 years ago, but haven't been given that same consideration this time. I believe this needs to be discussed early next year.
Yountville's water utility is an enterprise fund, separate from the general fund, charges a fee for water service, and it's one of the few funds in the entire budget that operates with a deficit, not a fund balance. The cost per acre foot for water has gone from $261,000 in 2007 to an estimated $1 million in 2022. As a member of the Town Council, I will inform residents of and include ratepayer residents in the disclosure processes required by Proposition 218 and support an ad hoc committee to work with CalVet regarding its rate-setting processes and develop or strengthen our relationship with CalVet, who owns this valuable natural resource. I would support CalVet in its efforts to conserve and manage the resource during drought and non-drought years, and empower residents with tools such as Eye on Water to manage and monitor water consumption, to understand that a small amount makes a big difference as we collectively consume and conserve. Yountville's water rates are currently below average as compared to those in our region and lower than our neighbors in St. Helena and Calistoga. The cost to maintain the distribution delivery of our system is high, yet maintenance and expert staff are not only necessary to deliver potable water to our homes, but also required by the state. The unexpected water main break in Washington Park a few years ago was an unplanned emergency project, and the water funds, with council approval, borrowed $1.5 million from the Water Drought Reserve Fund to provide the necessary funds via a 10-year loan with interest. The Water Capital Fund must repay this by September 2030. This is an example of why we have fees for our water service other than the water itself. There are no easy answers. Would more rain alleviate the need to enforce our infrastructure? I'd like to find out. And the town offers a low-income subsidy fund to help qualified residents pay their bills, and I would continue to support that benefit to the community.
This is a difficult issue, and I really think there are two questions that we could speak to here, and I have a couple specific ideas. The first question is whether it's possible to bend the cost curve for the cost of our water, and the second is whether there's ways to defray the impact on residents. In terms of bending the cost curve to reduce the cost, the town could and should explore joining with other local jurisdictions in a joint effort to achieve economies of scale and reduce the cost of providing the water. You could join to have economies of scale in chemicals, regulatory support, and other items. And I actually understand this has been considered and recommended by LAFCO, which is the regional agency that looks at these sorts of things in the past. And I would really support that idea. It's a complicated idea because each of the local jurisdictions have different water sources, but given the cost of water, I think it's really something Yountville needs to consider. I'm in the lowest tier of water usage, and my bill, combined wastewater and water, is now about $160 a month, and it will go up to $250 a month. That's really a big impact on residents. And that leads me to the second aspect of this. I really support what Pam suggested, which is that we consider ways that the town could absorb some of the costs related to the water rates, especially for infrastructure. In the past, the town has used general fund revenue to subsidize water rates. And I think that especially makes sense when you're looking at infrastructure that really belongs to the town, and there is a logical connection with the town using other sources of revenue to pay for this. I would have to learn more and talk with other council members, but I think that that really is something we should consider. It's a very sad idea to be pricing people out of Yountville. Approximately 30% of the people in Yountville are single people living by themselves over 65, and those sorts of residents are really going to be impacted by this rate increase. Thank you.
What was the question? It's a long way down there, you know. I forgot it again. Oh yeah, I don't know much about the water issue. I followed it in the Sun, and I hope we can save the Sun, by the way. But all I can say about it right now is I heard you had some machinery they bought here, and they just haven't turned it on or something, I heard. I don't know what that was about. I listen, you know. But anyway, what I would do is as mayor, I would just surround myself with folks like these, and I would take their advice, because they would all make a great mayor from what I've heard. I liked what they've all said. The only reason I'm running really is because I want to see some new faces downtown. You know, I've been here 10 years and I've seen the same 5 people saying, oh, you know, just playing musical chairs, you know. You be the mayor this year, and you be the vice mayor, you be the dog catcher, you do this, you do that. And it's the same 5 people all the time, you know. It's time for some new ideas. I'd say fresh faces, but I don't have a fresh face. New ideas. That's it. And I would look to people like that to solve the water problems.
Thank you. The town provides reliable, safe drinking water to its customers. To do so requires well-trained, certified staff, use of critical water main lines and laterals, water meters, and state-of-the-art technology required to meet the ever-increasing state and federal regulations. The Town of Yountville has an enterprise fund for water expenses and revenue. An enterprise fund is a separate accounting and financial reporting mechanism for which revenues and expenditures are segregated into a fund with financial statements separate from all other government activities. The town hires experienced consultants to help the council estimate the cost and revenue to set water rates for a 5-year period. The current water rates will not be sufficient to, for operating revenue to run a stable water system. At the September 20th meeting of the council, we approved a resolution approving the intention to adjust water and wastewater rates. Under the new rate structure for a typical single-family customer, currently their rates are $94.83 a month. Their water bill in the first year would increase $15.84 per month in the first year, and for the next 4 years, the rates would go up 11% per year, resulting in an increase of $55 per month after 5 years. To help mitigate the cost of increased cost of water, Yountville offers a utility rate assistance program for eligible low-income residents. We can also apply for grants for critical infrastructure projects to reduce ratepayer cost. We can also explore alternatives to the Rector Reservoir for sources of water if costs could be lower. We sometimes have to use City of Napa water, and it costs twice as much. Thank you.
Water consumption by Yountville residents is lower than the forecasted average that was allowed. Our water comes from the Rector Reservoir, and I don't believe we have a water shortage here in Yountville, but I do believe we should conserve our water usage as good neighbors. What I am opposed to is a projected rate hike over the next 5 years. Year 1, $20, year 5, $100. Once a rate hike has been accepted by the residents, historically, it's not going to be rescinded. Next year, we may have the wettest year we haven't seen in a decade. Does that mean that we should reduce the water rate being charged? That's not going to happen. Let's not make our water usage rate a revenue enhancement. Let's leave that to our TOT tax, our sales tax, and our property tax. The water rate we charge our Yountville residents should be looked at each year and adjusted accordingly. We don't need a 5-year plan. We don't know how much water or rain will be falling in the next 5 years. I'm done.
I wasn't quite sure. I wasn't sure if you were going to just drop the mic. I mean, you know, conclude like that. Thank you all. We're going to move on to the last prepared question, and it may be the last question we have tonight. So, but we'll try to get through it quickly. It depends on your answers. Transparency. A theme to this year's elections seems to involve communications and public discourse. How do you propose to respond to this community concern, and what specific actions will you personally take? And we'll start with Robin.
Well, thanks. So transparency is a buzzword in all business sectors. We all want and deserve it, but it is a bit ambiguous. Yountville residents and businesses get a lot of information, but does transparency refer to a town website that offers lots of links, or spreadsheet after spreadsheet, or perhaps a detailed agenda that spells out the items? Or maybe it's a town hall meeting that offers info via a presentation and leaves time for Q&A. All of this combined is excellent. And I'm committed to gathering input and giving voice to new ways residents can get educated. Not everybody is on Nextdoor to hear about meetings. Not everybody is getting signed up for the chamber newsletter, which is a shame. But in educating residents and encouraging their involvement and following up with residents on personal level to let them know of decisions made in council, even when they aren't going to be popular, I think we can be more transparent as leaders. We have been served by a fine council who are always accountable for their votes. For that, I'm confident. But perhaps they've not always been accountable for circling back and explaining them. That's what transparency and accountability means for me. It's facing the difficult tasks of letting people know why what they were interested in wasn't accepted. It's facing people and letting them know why they maybe aren't getting the dog park that they wanted, or they are getting a dog park in their neighborhood. So I commend all of you for being here tonight. You are the 150 that showed up and cared. Congratulations.
Today, we exist in an atmosphere where our government relations are fractured. There's a lack of civility, a lack of trust, and combined with the anonymity of social media and electronic communication, our civil, public discourse is diminished and threatened. Yountville's elected representatives are nonpartisan and take an oath to be independent, impartial, and fair in their judgment and actions, to ensure that public deliberations are conducted openly in an atmosphere of respect and civility. As a candidate, I opted to sign the Code of Fair Campaign Practices and commit to not use or permit whispering campaigns or scurrilous attacks on any candidate. I am committed to the Code of Ethics in the council protocols, to refrain from verbal attacks on the character or motives of others, to listen attentively to public discussion, and focus on current business issues to benefit the community. I stand firmly and independent from influences in my decision to run for what I believe, to serve this town. Yountville has further enabled transparency through its OpenGov software, its IT infrastructure for broadcast and recording of public meetings, as well as a transparency portal for all budget expenditures. As a council member, I am aware that I will be a highly visible public representative and will adhere to the fair political practices, code of ethics, proper conduct, and conflict of interest disclosures required of the position.
This is a topic that really is part of why I decided to run for council. Many people have told me that they've been discouraged by the way in which their comments and input have been received at council meetings and by town leadership. And I've been struck by several long-term residents who've told me quite sincerely that they've basically given up. The town this question asks for specific actions, and I would say the town needs to revisit its written protocols on public impact to match the fact that one of our success factors in the town is to have an engaged public. The written protocols, as written now, really address ways for reducing public comment. They explicitly discourage large numbers of residents from showing up at a meeting where they have concerns over a specific issue. It's possible the written protocols don't really matter since I'm not sure anybody reads them, but to the extent they show an attitude from our public council about input, it would be good to revisit them. My second action and thing I would commit to is that regular meetings of the town council twice a month are an important part of the job and something I would commit to doing. In the 10 months of scheduled meetings so far this year, in 5 of the months the town has met only one time. Fewer meetings means a more crowded agenda, and this can discourage people from showing up to speak on an item because they don't get to speak on that particular item until it comes up on the agenda. This spring, I was very sorry to see at the meeting when the council approved significant zoning changes and approved the housing element, the item did not come up until about hour 6 of the meeting, and it almost received no discussion by the council or public input, probably because it was hour 6. The question asked about what I would personally do about transparency. I am committed to listening closely to residents and learning from what they say. Frequently, I've had the experience where you have to dig a little deeper to get to what someone's real concern is. And once the actual concern is expressed, there may be alternative ways to address it. As residents, we are not going to get everything the way we might want it. What I think most people want from their public representative is to make sure their concerns are actually understood, and if possible, all efforts have been made to try to address their concerns. I'm a person with an open mindset. I know from my experience that the way I see things may not be the only way or actually the right way. This is why I like working in teams with people with different perspectives and strengths from me. And I also don't have a problem changing course if I learn something more or circumstances change, or God forbid, I might have actually been going down the wrong road. It's important to discuss in a transparent way by the council the things that go well and also the things that don't go so well. In my experience, a willingness, and I'll just finish this really quickly because it's very important to me, a willingness to acknowledge and examine things that don't go well is as important as things that do go well. I was very disappointed that at the last meeting the council did not discuss the problem with water testing for bacteria that required them to send a letter to all users. To me, it was a significant issue that should have been discussed. Transparency when things go wrong isn't necessarily an effort to point fingers, but my experience is that problems, especially operational problems, are more likely to be fixed if openly acknowledged. Thank you.
I got it. Okay, I've spoken to a lot of shopkeepers since I've been here. And a lot of them tell me that they have too much tourism. And a lot of them tell me we don't have enough tourism. So this is one of our problems here. We got to find out. And also, I've talked to a lot of the tourists. And most of these people, 9 out of 10 of these people, never heard of Yountville until they got here. They were coming to San Francisco. They're going to wine country. That's all they know. So they have no money that's been earmarked to spend in Yountville because they didn't know they were coming here. So this is another reason why I want to be mayor, and I'll be out there with these people. I have nothing to do. I'll be out there daily with these people like I always have been. And we'll make them happy, and they'll spend more money here. Everybody will make money off of them. You just got to treat them right, make sure they're happy. And right now, these tourists look lost to me, and I've been working for tourists for 18 years. And these tourists, you may think not, but you're full of poop. They are bored. They're looking for something to do. They have nothing to do except walk around. Let's make them buy stuff. That's the whole point of it. But make me mayor, and I'll do you a good job, I promise. And when I need good advice, I'll go to these folks. I promise you that.
Thank you. We're going to go to...
Thank you. I believe that continuously improving communications between the town council and the community we serve is imperative. Before I was elected to the town council, the council agenda was posted at 4:59 p.m. on Friday before a council meeting, and it allowed very little time for residents to comment. With my full support, the town staff under Steve Rogers made our agenda available for resident comments as soon as it's finalized. The town has strived to improve communications with new tools and technologies such as e-notify, Nixle alerts, the town's newsletter, the town website, a town Facebook page, and postings on Nextdoor. And soon we're going to be rolling out new software for civic engagement called Open Town Hall. I receive and respond to many calls and emails from Yountville residents with questions and requests for information. Contact information is available for every council member on the town website. I urge every resident to reach out to the council because the council is listening. One great example I frequently refer to is the town council action to ban gas-powered leaf blowers. This was not an idea that came before the council or staff, but rather a group of concerned citizens came to the council with this proposal. The group spent a lot of time researching their proposal, speaking with members in the community, developing their plan, and making thoughtful, convincing arguments to the council. We approved it. St. Helena recently followed our lead and are also banning gas-powered leaf blowers. As mayor, I would like to make a change on the council meeting protocols to improve public discourse. After we receive the staff report, we're currently limited to just asking questions. I would like this discussion to also include current thoughts the council may have on the item before them. I think this will give the public a way to kind of see which way we're leaning on an item so they may be able to address their public comment in a better way. I think this will also add to the transparency and help improve our decision-making process. Thank you.
Our town staff is the highest paid staff in California, averaging $96,000 per person per year, and they need to be in the office, not working from home. The last 4 times that I went to the office asking to speak with an individual by name, I was told they're working from home today. Just a side note, if I may. The day that it was official that I was running for mayor, I asked if I could see the mayor's office. The individual helping me just laughed and said, "The mayor doesn't have an office, he works out of his home." 2 final comments about the council's meetings, if I may, as well. All council members should be wearing leveler microphones attached to a piece of clothing near their neck when they're not talking directly into the microphone in front of them, so they can be heard. Secondly, it's time to do away with PowerPoint presentations where the presenter reads word for word. The presenter should be able to discuss the important points and allow the council members to ask questions. PowerPoint presentations become meaningless and many times packed with too much detail for the council to absorb. If you're watching it on TV, you have a tendency to want to turn it off.
The themes of my campaign are illustrated by the words civility, communication, and community. I've observed a deterioration of the democratic process and a lack of respect on the part of leadership and some council members in meetings. This is a top-down issue that can be addressed by new attitudes and new leadership at the top. Residents are frustrated and often drop out of the process because they do not feel heard or respected. Businesses are frustrated by inconsistency in decisions and enforcement that is plagued with additional requirements that are not disclosed initially. Minority council members are not allowed to bring items for discussion and are basically shut out of representing their constituents. Information is not shared equally among council members, and meetings are not designed for discussion. This is a perception, but the perception itself is a problem. I propose to review and revamp the council protocols which govern the meetings. And I find it interesting that a council member who has been involved in restructuring the protocols would now change them because the community is upset. Creating automatic responses to written comments from the public and following up on public comments, input, and explanation would be important for the staff to do. It's not too much to expect. And we should encourage free and open discussion that is necessary to make the best decisions. I am fully committed to correcting the protocols and allow and encourage public participation, keeping in mind that in no way I advocate a free-for-all. I'm ready to lead with respect, empathy, understanding, and care. This kind of leadership is what our community deserves.
Oh yeah, I was ready to do my close.
Well, I know you want to get out of here, but I'm in charge of the mic, so you can applaud that, by the way. I'm kidding. Thank you. Actually, we're going to throw in a rapid fire. I know you guys is everyone still awake? I'm still being video recorded, so we're doing it. We're going to throw in one rapid fire because I want Scott to go first. And then what I'm going to do to ensure that Hillary gets to go first is I'll allow you to conclude first. How does that sound? Okay, yeah, I want everyone to get a chance to be first because that's just the right thing to do. So the rapid fire question, how would you, and I'll speak loudly, how would you support and engage with the Veterans Home as a town councilor or mayor to have closer engagement and participation with the town in support of housing, the Lincoln Theater, and the community at large? And we'll start with Scott. 1 minute.
Excellent question. Thank you. First of all, be kind. Start with addressing and saying hello to our neighbors as veterans come into town and share the space and connect with the administration in every way possible to understand what the goals are for housing when the skilled nursing facility is coming online, and what the town council can do to partner to make those projects successful and to bring about a better sense of community and all that we'll do to work together.
Could you repeat the question, please? In terms of the management at the Veterans Home, it's a little difficult to get a real firm understanding of their situation because we have been so limited. But I think in my experience when dealing with governmental agencies, you really need to try to understand what are their priorities and constraints. So for example, I've heard people, and I myself am frustrated that we can't go up to the Veterans Home. On the other hand, my understanding from the healthcare environment is that their first obligation is to the vets, and there were some incredibly catastrophic incidents involving veterans at the initial stages of COVID, so I completely understand that. The second part of this question is how to try to engage vets. And I would like to see veterans come to more Yountville activities, and the best way we can serve them is here, of course, and through the Parks and Rec Department. I would encourage veterans to come to the Golden Ticket by offering them a free participation in the Golden Ticket. And I would also very much think that the Parks and Rec Department might consider a seat on the commission for veterans so that they could give feedback and input on what would be of interest to them.
I know, get my steps in.
Thank you.
How would you engage as a town council member or mayor with the Veterans Home?
Oh, that's an easy one. I do that every day. Number one, I'd like to be mayor because we need more representation at the Veterans Home downtown. We have good representation, but we need more of it. And either myself or Don Moore should be the mayor for a while now, get rid of the same old faces, And let us try something new. I've heard over the years that I've been here in the sun a lot. Oh, we need something downtown that'll get people excited. Something. Well, I'm the person that they're looking for. So give me a chance, and I'll show you what can be done. And God bless the veterans, and I'm all for them, and I'm going to be for them all the way in.
I've been routinely attending the Allied Council meetings at the Veterans Home even before I was elected, so almost 14 years now. And there have been some breaks. We haven't been able to come up as frequently during COVID, but currently all you have to do is send an email to the Allied Council chair and get an invitation. I also routinely attend the CalVet board meetings. And when I go to the Allied Council meetings, it's twofold. I bring them information about what's going on in Yountville and what's fun in Yountville, and I bring back what I hear during public comment and some of their presentations at their Allied Council meeting. Also, their administrator is also always there, and we can hear what she's working on. And at the CalVet board meeting, I bring some of these issues to that board, and they give me priorities and what they're working on. So I think this is a great way to transfer information and be involved at the Veterans Home and with the CalVet board, who has the oversight over the Veterans Home. Thank you.
I'm a veteran at the Veterans Home. I moved there originally back in 2008. I left in 2010, came back in 13, left in 16, and I'm back now. I've been back now for over a year, a little over a year. I love the home. I plan on dying there. I have a fondness for the cemetery that we have on the Veterans Home. I have a foundation that I've created. I'm the director of the Civil War Memorial Cemetery Foundation that has 2,308 Civil War veterans that are buried there that nobody knows about. The cemetery is a disaster, needs to be cleaned, headstones need to be aligned, fencing needs to be done. We need a kiosk to find somebody that's there. I was the Allied Council chairman for 2 years before I left the second time. The home I know well. I wrote the Pearl of the Valley video that's been looked at by thousands of people. I know the home well, and no one loves it more than I do. And I can tell you right now, we do need a voice in this town.
I'm committed to connecting with the Veterans Home's members. We can do that by attending their council, Allied Council meetings, and inviting them to our council meetings. I would suggest that I hold office hours at the home as a mayor. I would also bring veterans into the boards and commissions, or create an ambassador program to have more veterans participate in our town. We could create more social events and activities in the parks and recreation that are tailored just to veterans. And I agree with the idea to subsidize the full amount of golden ticket for the veterans. And physically, we could work to create a better ADA sidewalk that connects town with the Veterans Home to enable the free movement of our residents, the veterans, into downtown.
You took one of my ideas, Pam. So yeah, definitely we've got CalVet there pouring so much cement right now. Why could they not carve out a 5-foot wide path with benches for the vets and for our town residents and our tourists to walk between? Let's open the bridge. Also, I want to open the bridge with Wi-Fi in town, so for the vets that are not able to get to events and meetings in town, things can be streamed directly to them. I think dedicated transportation for events and meetings might encourage some of them to come out and participate. I was lucky when I hosted an ice cream social for the south end of town that women vets were invited and attended, as well as a few others that I had met through the concert series. I do feel like the leaders there with their military backgrounds are bureaucrats and not necessarily open to the conversations that we've had so far, but we can't let it be a dead end. We can leverage Sacramento as much as we can and talk about their history. I think there's a council or a commission member who is going to bring forward a book on a history of a World War vet, and I think that's brilliant. I think it's a great idea for us to appreciate their history and stand behind them. Thank you.
Getting my exercise too. So we're going to move straight into the council candidate conclusions. You'll each have 1 minute, and we'll start with Hillary. So although you're last, you get to go first.
Oh, thank you. Well, I would very much like to thank all of you for being here tonight. It's quite a commitment to spend 2 hours on such a nice fall night. I want to just in closing convey that I am sincere in my commitment to active listening. I think I could be a good representative for the residents because of my business skills and experience and my legal background, and it also would be a good addition to the council. I think it would provide me with the ability to ask the right questions and identify issues, not necessarily to have all the answers, but also to bring new ideas. Public agencies in the town is different from a large organizations in some ways, but in other ways not so much. And many of the same business and management ideas could be brought to Yountville to see if they can achieve efficiencies, produce a better result for our residents. And this is something I think that I could bring to the council. And just finally, I'd like to say my commitment to public service is not new. I previously served at a time when I was working 10 hours a day and raising a child. I served on the Planning Commission in Rinda at a time when we had some very controversial projects, and I spent many hours in town meetings. And also subsequently, I served on the rent board when I lived in when I lived in Oakland, and also spent a significant amount of time. And so I'm very sincere in my interest and commitment to public service. Thank you.
What's your conclusion, your closing statement?
My closing statement, oh boy. Okay, thank you for coming. Good night.
All right.
No, I'm just kidding. I would like to be the mayor, so remember me. I'll make the town a happier place, and we'll all make money together out there. I know how to do it. And thank you for coming, and thank you for asking me to come.
Thank you, Yountville Chamber, again, for hosting this event. I believe in open and transparent decision-making processes in our local government. I will reach out to the community for discussion and input, and my top priorities are to maintain adequate financial reserves and to keep Yountville financially strong and to keep Yountville safe. The Yountville Sheriff and the Napa County Fire Department are doing an outstanding job, and we have one of the safest communities in the valley. Yountville will need to find workable solutions for affordable housing, water security, climate change, and other issues that cannot be ignored. My experience on the town council gives me the leadership experience to find workable, innovative, and consensus-building solutions to challenges that lie ahead. My service on numerous county and state board also sets me apart from the other candidates. I've developed strong collaborative relationships with these colleagues in these organizations. We can have more regional approaches to our problems and their problems and solve them together. I have the knowledge and experience in local government. I would be honored to serve Yountville with your vote on November the 8th. Thank you.
I bring to this campaign some fresh ideas. And I know that I'm facing two candidates that live in your neighborhood. You know them both and feel comfortable voting for either one of them. I'm well aware of that. I'm a veteran living at the home. I know that you honor me for my service. I hear it every day. And you tell other veterans the same thing. But voting me as mayor is something new. It's never been even considered before. If elected, I will be representing not only the town of Yountville, but the Veterans Home as well. In the 138-year history of the home, it would now have a place at the table. Good ideas to grow Yountville's economy is not restricted to only those who live in the local neighborhood. My name is Robert Moore, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
My goal is to offer leadership that is open and transparent, to make decisions based on discussion and respectful dialogue. This election is a huge opportunity to elect people with new perspectives and fresh eyes. It's an opportunity to change the dynamic on the council and by extension in the town. I will work toward understanding and respect for differing interests, to listen and value ideas, and to be fair and consistent. I will make decisions that move toward balance and long-term health of the community, and to create a livable town that shares its specialness without sacrificing its community.
After all you've heard this evening, it's clear there are key decisions to be made in the coming years, and we need a council who serves the entire community, businesses and residents, to find and implement solutions and challenges, some of which we've been facing for years and years without resolution or meaningful movement. We have a once-in-a-decade opportunity for fresh faces and fresh ideas on the council. And we've got 3 really strong candidates. So go Yountville. Residents here are savvy and caring, and it's time for their voices to be considered as the council makes decisions. They deserve leaders who will collaborate as a team while imparting civility to all. I will be a trusted community builder and a partner. If elected, I will make myself available by hosting regular office hours. I will consistently vote to preserve our town's character and fiscal and environmental health. And I will be tenacious and creative to think outside of the box to add suitable, affordable housing and community-minded retail business. I respectfully and enthusiastically ask for your vote. Thank you.
I want to take a moment to honor those First Peoples, pioneers, veterans, and entrepreneurs who have lived on and farmed this land before us, and to recognize community members for whom this day is holy. I am here today because I am dedicated to public service, and I have something to contribute to my community. Town Hall is a laboratory where our local government is formed. It is political science, it is variable, and the crucial elements are public participation, listening, hearing, acting, and transparency. I am well equipped and prepared to serve as a council member to weigh those variables and measure the components for successful outcomes. Local author Shelby Scarborough writes in Civility Rules, "Incivility shuts down discourse, while real civility encourages open lines of communication and the freedom to share ideas." In closing, Yountville begins with Y-O-U. That's you. Let's get to work. Please vote Scott Owens for Yountville Town Council. Thank you.
Yes, that was a selfie. Okay, it's 2022. I gotta Insta this thing. So, thank you all. Thank you all for coming tonight and joining us for the 22 Yountville General Election Forum, produced in partnership with the Yountville Chamber of Commerce and the Town of Yountville. We hope you enjoyed it and understand the technical difficulties. You know, that's just part of life. and we make it work. So thank you. The recording of this forum will be available on the Yountville Chamber of Commerce YouTube channel. It will also air Channel 28 on Friday, that's this week, 1 p.m., and then again on Channel 28 every Friday at 1 p.m. during October, and Monday during October at 5 p.m. Again, special thank you to Partners to Media for filming the forum this evening. For more information about the Yountville Chamber of Commerce, please visit our website, yountvillechamber.com. Remember, the final day to register to vote is October 24th. You can visit the Secretary of State website, sos.ca.gov, to register. And I trust you're all registered because it's important and I know you're going to do it. Don't forget to vote. Just because you're registered, don't forget to vote. We'll get our ballots, I believe, next week. I don't endorse people while I'm on, public domain. Thank you so much again for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you around town. And this is one last chance for you to applause for all of these people and their performance. Thank you.